Right, just when you thought you couldn't have enough projects on the go, here we go. We got this other one. The biggest thing with this is I wanted a four-wheel drive. I love these Land Rovers. I don't know why. I had one. I had a couple, and I'm itching to make a proper four-wheel drive out of one of these. Basically, I'm going to be using round bar, making some skid plates. Now, this is a horrible looking vehicle. It got off a farm. You can see it's full of dirt. The video doesn't do it justice. It's horrible. The hood linings come down. The seats were filthy. Had black duck seat covers all over it. Now, when I pulled those off, you couldn't sit on these seats. Now, look, I didn't film it because it's not a video about car detailing, but I pulled out all the seats, all the carpet, stripped the whole interior. We had pressure cleaner. And my pressure cleaner actually blew up while I was doing this. I had to buy another one. But anyway, so I pressure cleaned the whole thing. And look at this. Replaced the hood lining. Very sparkly. A bit of glue came through there. Doesn't matter. No one's going to look up. It's basically to stop it from falling in your eyes. But here we go. This is the big part of the build. We've got this god ugly bull bar stuck on the front. Now, it's not fitted very well. And you can see on the other side. Look at it. Didn't even show you all of it. It was that ugly. Essentially what happened is it wasn't a good fit. It stuck out way too far. I tried cutting it up. See these bits? I've cut the ends off to try and weld another, but those corners were just sharp, angular, and stuck out way too far. I tried trimming it up. You'll see as I do some pointing here. I'll point in a minute. But the gap was too big, so I trimmed it to try and make it fit along that line. So I'd snug up a bit closer, but even then it was just ugly. It didn't sit well. The amount of work that was going to have to go into that. So this is what I've done. This is how we go. I bought a whole bunch of round bar. So I'm going to build... Basically, I'm telling you here in the video, I recorded my voice, but I don't have a microphone, so it was friggin' horrible. Basically, it's building it on the vehicle. I don't have plans, and here's... pointing at is the plastic corroded and destroyed by the UV light coming through the sun, coming through that gap in the building. It's so big that it snapped around and crumbled as soon as I tried to I'm going to keep those motors to relocate this whole system, but the only spot under the bonnet was where there's an air compressor down here to run it's got air suspension in the rear. So OEM version up under the body, is broken. So the old owner decided to put one of these in and sort of just plumb it in and run it as a second motor, a second pump running the air compressor. What I've done now is I've actually taken that out and it now lives where the old compressor was under there. So it didn't take much more effort than just unbolting it and making a bracket for it to sit up underneath the car where it's supposed to. So that was quite an easy thing, but the whole idea was to put this old washer bottle, up under the bonnet. But as I went to it, it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. Anywho, so I've taken off these old, big, ugly mounts, the square mounts. That's going to go away. And you can see all the wires hanging down. Now, this plastic bit you can see hanging there that I'm looking at there, I've left that in place for the moment just to get, it was a nice angle. It was a good approach angle and it looked proper with the vehicle. So I've left it there to use it as an angle base to get my, the build off. Use that as a guide, I guess. Now, do not buy one of these machines. Do not. That is useless. It kinks. This one broke almost on the second bend. On the second bend, I broke the bloody thing. I've since tried multiple. Look at it. Yuck. That's the best bend I think I ever got out of it. It's still kinked there. I think I managed to actually use that piece still in the next couple of scenes, but yeah, essentially I've tried a few things. I've tried multiple bends so that you move it, and I can only get 3 movements out of it before it slides back. Look, dents the outside. And literally, after building this entire bumper, I went back, because I'm building the side rails now. Filled it with sand. That didn't work. It just kinked it. The same as usual. Probably just took a little bit longer to kink, but now it's essentially kinked as buggered. Do not buy one of these stupid jacks. It's just horrendous. So what I ended up doing, I don't know if I'll show this coming up. I go on for this for ages, don't I? But I hate it. It's a big kink right there. Essentially, all I want to do is say, don't buy this. But I struggled on regardless. I did a couple more bends using this machine. It does nice, shallow bends, what's the word? Slight bends. I actually use it to curve the bumper at the front here. But what I needed to do, I needed to get the levels right. So I've got these magnetic levels. They're great. I've got multiple of them actually, so I can stick them on all over the build and put one on this end. See, what I've done is I'll get it all mounted up. Wait for a minute. But anyway, as I was bending it, I kept the level on it just to make sure. And here we go, and fucking broke. Just as I was trying to get the right angle, the whole casing, you'll see in a second, has actually snapped under the pressure. I hated it. I gave it the finger, and that made me feel so much better. Let's have a look what carnage. Look at this. This cast steel just looks like rice bubbles. It's horrible. Anyway, so I struggled on. I think I cut. No, I haven't cut that yet. I'm just going to see if this is the right angle, and just luckily it was pretty much spot on exactly where I needed it. I don't want that front bit to be vertical, and I don't want the underneath side to be horizontal. So all at a slight angle, matches that plastic bit, which is what I'm using there. I do a lot of talking, trying to tell you what's going on, but essentially you don't know, because you can't hear me. So I'm just going to chop that in half and use the both sides and mount them both up. Here we go, get out my trusty Evolution slow cut, cold cut saw. Get my the vise out of there, that doesn't need to be on the bench. My workbench is pretty messy at this point. I had like 15 different little projects going on. There we go, going to chop this up, cut, I'm going to flip it over and match up with the other side. Now what I do here is I'm trying to get the angles exactly the same. So I'm going to, there we go. It was actually perfect. Like I couldn't believe I didn't have to rebend it. But anyway, so here we go. Now this is going to be the basis of the rest of the build. So I want to have a reference point all over it. So I've got my set square out. What do you want to call it? Speed square. I want to mark identical lines on both of them. So that they're just random, but they're just going to be reference points to go off when I'm measuring and marking out for the next round, when they're actually welded and mounted 1.5 meters apart. So anyway, I'm going to chop this off in a second. Look at this amazing shot here. I'm going to do some cutting. Ready? I actually like this saw. It doesn't create much heat. You can see it's getting blunt by all the sparks coming off it. It's done a fair bit of work, this thing. Now what I don't show in the rest of the build, see these curves, I can't but use the bender for all my big curves. So I'm actually going to use that saw, but I don't show it in the video. I forgot to record heaps of it. It's got a depth gauge on it, so I can actually cut, not all the way through. And I use that to cut lobster back slots in it to bend the steel. Here we go. This is to get my angle for the mount, I guess you want to call it. There we go. There it is. Bit of plate steel. I think it's 5mm thick. I'm just going to mark it up and cut it. You're not really going to see much. It's just cutting steel. And chop. There we go, all done. Now you can see I strategically placed my number plate there so that all the sparks can embed in it and make it horrible. Yeah, I don't think things through sometimes. So that's going to be all covered in shit. So I'm just going to get that angle right. Now I've got to cut. Oh, there we go. Drill some holes in it. This is going to be interesting. Look at this. Ready? Oh, the cinematography is just amazing. There we go. And we chuck. There's a hole goes in it. Can you believe it? There we go. One of the easiest things you can do with a drill press. Drill a hole. So basically, I drill all these holes, 2 on each side. So that's 4 holes all up if you're doing the maths, following along at home. There we go. Boom. And I do another one over here. Did I film it? Probably did. Oh, look at that twofer. I was pretty sure I got away with not having to film 2 holes, but there we go. Now out comes my dangleometers again. So I've got the vertical on that side and then the vertical that way. That way I know that when I weld this plate on, when I bolt it to the vehicle, it's going to be perpendicular. It's going to be straight up and down, so I hold it there. Obviously you don't wear gloves when you're doing this because that's going to be far too safety wise. So it's only going to be really hot when you touch it. So yeah, you weld it there with no hands and then you go, rightio, how's that? Did it work? Yep. Nah, fuck, that's really hot. Alright, so now that you got your finger all bandaged up, rub your finger to make sure that it's still hurting. Yep, still ow. Now we're going to stick your thumb there and weld your thumb on as well. There we go. Don't get electric shocked while you do this. There we go. Lovely. Now the reason I'm checking is because when you weld, it shrinks, heats and then shrinks, and it pulls the piece in a certain direction. So I'm just double checking that it's not pulling it too far and not pulling it off center. Looks like my tacks are so small that it's not really doing anything. One up the top here just to hold it all together properly. And I'm happy with that. Now we use that to bolt that on. Next thing is I use all these offcuts and bits and pieces to scratch and fight. There's a lot of thinking that goes on with all this. All this takes a long time. So yeah, that's fully welded that bottom bit. Now here's my other bended part. Is it going to work? Looks like it'll probably fit there. All my imaginings. And I did a lot of talking here. But essentially, this is why I built that hole saw bloody, what is it? Pipe notching thing. There we go. Make sure I've got both sides all done. And this is why I wanted the reference points, because once both of them are now vertical both ways, I've got reference points of everything. So once I measure off those baselines, I can get all the rest of the measurements right. And it worked out pretty well. So now here's this notching machine. Now this took hours and hours. The drill fell apart. The actual stand that I got was lovely, but this, yeah, it's just not powerful enough. Kept on stopping and starting. See, it got jammed there, and then I got the shits, and then I eventually did 2 ends, and that's all I could do. I just lost interest. The hole saw is not long enough to go all the way through the pipe, so I had to do it in 2 stages. I didn't film most of this because it was just so goddamn boring. It's just, this is all it is. Get stuck. See? Put some lube on there. Drill. Get stuck. Jams. Oh, this one's going to go a bit longer. Yep, there we go. Get stuck. A bigger one of those drills would probably be worth it. But still, the hole saw itself was the part that let me down. I couldn't go all the way through like I wanted to. Anyway, so there we go. 2 ends, 4 hours later. That's the part. Now I use this as I tidied that up a little bit off camera. And I'm using the offcut, I guess, to mark out my next couple of things, as you might see here. Here we go. You see the back of my head in a second. Oh, well, look at that. That looks pretty cool. Start to take shape. I'll play some music in a minute. And there we go, use that offcut piece just to get my height right. Essentially what I'm going to be doing here is, there we go. This is all just held in. It's using it to mark out where I'm going to use the next hole saw to chop those verticals off at the right level. It's not going to be cut straight with an angle grinder, it's going to be notched. I actually broke 3 drill bits, 3 pilot hole drill bits doing this. I didn't film it. There's a lot, pretty much after this point. I didn't think I lost interest. My phone went flat or something. Then I spent all night building. Didn't record it. Doesn't matter. It's all just, you see what happens. This is the interesting part. So interesting, in fact, that I'm falling asleep talking about it. All I'm doing here is just marking out where these notches need to go to make it perfectly vertical, so that when I put my hole saw in, it's going to be the exact spot that it needs to be. And then when my pipe comes and lays in it, it's going to be just, oh, you're not going to believe it. It's going to be amazing. I didn't actually know the back of my head looked like that, so that's great to see on video. And let's take that away. Yes, what you don't see now is I basically drill those out and bend up another pipe to get fit on top for my top rail. Right, so after that little bending exercise, we have a look. I can't get the really tight bend that I need to get pretty much almost 90 degrees for this last little bit here, so I'm yakking away telling you what I need to do. Essentially, it's cut lobster back. It's called lobster backing. You basically cut slots in the smaller side of the radius, allowing enough room for the material to bend, and you be able to curve it, and we'll do it now. And that's what cutting looks like. So there we go, there's some slots. I've marked them out roughly to where I need it. It's not a straight curve, it's like a compound curve. So I've put some of the gaps a bit close together. Obviously this isn't enough cutting yet, but this is what I'm trying to show you. That lobster backing wasn't exactly necessary with those big wedges, but I did it, and I cut them out, big triangle wedges, to get a huge curve in that such a small spot. And you'll see what happens after. And there we go. Last couple of cuts. Finish it all off nice and like, look at all those sparks everywhere. Have you ever noticed in the movies where they're doing work on vehicles and there's sparks coming out? Completely unnecessary footage. It looks pretty cool, but I don't know why they do it. Anyway, there we go. That's that curve all pushed in. I didn't record actually doing the bending, which I don't know what happened there. But there we go. There's a close-up of that, whatever that is. Oh, here I was talking about something. Basically, I've used these clamps and whatnot just to hold it up, because I don't have 15 arms and I'm the only person in my shed. So I managed to pull that curve all the way in to be exactly where I need it. I'm pretty sure I've tack welded it at that point to keep that curve exact. Oh, maybe I haven't. I'm pretty sure that's just there. Anyway, it's nice. You can see my center markings and my other markings. I've got, yeah, it's all very cool. Basically, this video is to show you can do this at your house. There's nothing special involved. Don't buy that bender. Waste of money. You can just do it with an angle grinder. Much better outcome. And now pretty much I forgot to record almost everything after this point. So I've done a whole bunch more of those bends using the angle grinder, as you'll see now. Ready, 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah, not yet then. What am I showing there? Just needs to be lifted up to there. Basically, I lift it up to there and I tack weld it in place. And in doing this, I forgot to record exactly what I was doing. So you'll see in this next shot. There, quite a few hours worth of work, all done. It's just tack welded at this point. As you can see, it's not really... Oh, I'm tripping over everything here. Trying to get a visual on what's happening. There we go. Starting to take place. We've got a horizontal piece at the top, horizontal in the middle, and this transition curved piece. That wasn't too hard. It's just basically one bend, but it's cut at such a point that it's, yeah, at that angle. There's a lot of fiddle farting around getting that to look right, and cutting that notch. Yeah, that required a little bit of angle grinder work. It wasn't with the hole saw. Anyway, having a look in here, I need an extra mount in here. See, just one piece off one side is not going to cut it. I'm going to hit my first kangaroo and it's just going to disappear, fall off. Yeah, so where those nuts and bolts are, you can see I'm going to have to put another plate on that side. Basically going to bend and then attach to that upright on that other side. Basically so that upright's going to be held on both sides, and I'm pretty sure across the middle. I can't remember what I ended up doing there, but it's skookum heavy, and it's definitely going to hold on if I hit a tree. The other point too is it's going to be a recovery point there as well, so it needs, when I tow a Toyota out with it backwards, it's going to hold on. And here we go. I've got a shot of something going on here. Oh, this is right. I'm going to show you my little CAD drawing that I did. There we go. Computer aided cutout design. So that sits in there, and just by pure luck, I did a lot of work, it flips over and actually is exactly mirrored on this other side. Look at that. And that center mark there is to show that when I do cut the two pieces, I can get the joint exactly in the middle with no gaps. Now this worked out pretty much perfectly. There's no mucking around I had to do. I think I cut that a little bit big on the steel so I could grind it nice and closer, like I'm pointing there. But basically that sits under that lip, up against, well, not under, about 5 mil away from that plastic underneath, a couple of mil from the grill at the front, and that's how it's going to cut out. So I traced this out on this big sheet of steel that I got. I think it's 1.5 mil. There we go. I sped this up. You can't cut this fast. It's just impossible. I really need a plasma cutter. Really, really need it. So there we go. I cut that out, sanded it back, and tack welded it in place. Can you see it? Did I show it? Sort of there. Also magically appeared was that top bar that's all bent up. I managed to actually bend that, and then I forgot to put my level on it when I did the second bend, and look, I've had to slice it to get it straight. What a fuck up. Anyway, I managed to fix that. Welded that all back in place so it's nice and straight. Got some messages coming in there. Anyway, there we go. Starting to all take shape. Now, I'm going to fill in these little triangle pieces. It's not just going to be open bar work for birds to fly into and get stuck. Those wires you see hanging down, they were from the indicators on the original bar. I'm not going to put indicators on this one. There's my MoreCAD design. Design? Computer aided design is what? Cardboard aided design. There you go. You can see I haven't had a haircut since my last shot. This has taken over a week to do, on and off, little bits and pieces. But this is a very complex piece. It curves and bends and wiggles and wobbles. I tried bending it all on this piece of steel to get the curve right so it would just sit in place, but what I ended up having to do, see, that's my first, it just doesn't fit. Essentially, it's way easier just to tack it in place, bend it in place, bash it, hit it, curve it, tack it, the whole way in. But I pretty much got to this point, there we go, and I tacked it in there. Now I needed holes in it, there, like that. I had to actually cut that back out because my hole punch wouldn't fit in that steelwork behind it. You can see my beautiful welding here. This is horrible, absolutely horrible. Everything that was going wrong would go wrong. It got inclusions, and you can see a big volcano erupted out of one of it. The joins aren't too bad. They worked out all right. I was nearly going to leave it like that, but I thought I'd smooth it all out. And look at this top right. Oh, look at the dents from that bender. Horrible. Look at that smoothness. I've since come back to these pit holes. I've filled those in with weld, ground them back. It's not like that anymore. I couldn't get it perfect the first time, so third time's a charm. Big fat welds there. You can see I've tried to run over my tacks and it hasn't quite smoothed out the way I wanted it to. If I was a better TIG welder, I'd probably TIG it so it looked really nice. There's that big volcano that erupted. But anyway, a bit of hammer work on all those dents and bumps made that all go away nice and neatly. Yeah, but essentially this is all welded up now, ready to bolt on. You can see, let's flip it over, have a look at my other mounts that I've done. All welded, yeah, look, we can see welds. That's yuck. Look at it, horrible. I ground that back out and started again, so the finish wasn't that poor.